Chapter 151. Did you ever like me? Lin Che said in protest, of course not. Usually I simply just ignore them. It's fine as long as I avoid them and stay far away. Gu Jingze looked at her. Since you're this stupid, it's right for you to just avoid them when you can. Lin Che was very grateful that Gu Jingze was willing to help her like this. She felt that he had already done enough. However, when Lin Yu returned home, she vilified Lin Che in front of everyone without restraint. Everyone in the family was still around and Qin Qing was also there listening. Lin Yu said furiously, she finally became a huge celebrity and finally made connections with an important figure. Forget the fact that she didn't welcome us, her father and sister, she even insulted us so badly on purpose. I just knew it, we shouldn't have asked for her help. Why would she want to help us? She just wants someone to get rid of me. She asked us to go over on the pretext of wanting to help us, but she only wanted to use the opportunity to humiliate us. Humph. After she finished speaking, Lin Yu just went back to her room angrily. The next day, Lin Che rushed to the filming venue. Yu Minmin and 2 assistants the company had allocated followed her along. Actually, Lin Che still felt that it was not necessary for her to have so many assistants. However, Yu Minmin said that since the company had allocated them to her, it was also a form of support to her, so she should just use them. She could treat it as her helping out the new assistants and giving them some experience. One of the 2 assistants was called Little Dao and the other was called Little Xiao. They followed Lin Che around and ran back and forth. Lin Che no longer needed to do anything at all. On the site, Lin Che got along pretty well with everyone and filming was also proceeding smoothly. In the waiting room, Lin Che also had a space specially allocated for herself. Her 2 assistants made her something to drink. They said that lemon water was good for the skin and fruits were good for the body. In the afternoon, her assistants even specially came to ask what she wanted to eat. Lin Che ordered some food and asked them to eat together with her. As Little Dao looked at the copious amounts of high-calorie foods, she even asked in surprise, Sister Che, is it all right to eat these things? Won't you get fat? Lin Che smiled and said, my body constitution is more alkaline so I don't typically put on weight. If I get fat, I'll just slim down by missing a few meals over 2 days after. Little Dao was immensely envious. You'll really make everyone envious to death like this. Initially, the 2 assistants were extremely afraid of Lin Che. However, as they gradually saw that Lin Che was so loud and carefree, she seemed to lack the haughty manner of a celebrity. So they also began to relax and start chatting with Lin Che. Little Xiao said, I thought that the filming environment was very tough. But it looks like it's pretty good. Lin Che said while eating something, no way. In the past, I had it very tough too. This time, the production team really treated me well. They even gave me this waiting room. Before this, I was always outside. I would look for a corner, place a stool there, and wait for my turn to act. Little Dao said, of course. Our Sister Che is the female lead now. Of course, she has her own waiting room. The environment is also so much better. Little Dao said, Sister Che, I heard that everyone has to be an assistant for a period of time when they first enter the industry. Did you work as an assistant back then? I did. I was an assistant for about a year. As Lin Che said this, she began to eat ravenously and recalled how she had indeed toiled and suffered in the past. However, now that she thought about it, it was also a very fulfilling time. Usually, everyone would come and greet Lin Che. Lin Che was simple-minded and she very quickly got familiar with the big-name and small-name actors and actresses. In no time, she had completed a day of filming. Yu Minmin knew that Lin Che was thoughtless and did not know to provide everyone with welfare. Thus, she helped her order barbecued skewers for everyone and treated them to barbecued meat. Only afterward did Lin Che leave this place. She went to the mall together with Yu Minmin and participated in an event there. She left the mall in a jiffy. However, before she had even walked a few steps, she unexpectedly saw Qin Qing here. Lin Che only recalled then that this mall belonged to the Qin family. Qin Qing stood in the innermost area as he looked at Lin Che. She was smiling as she walked out. Amidst the crowd, her tall and slender appearance was very dazzling. Qin Qing smiled as he walked over. You came here for an event? Lin Che said, yes. I forgot that this place is owned by your family. If I'd known earlier, I would have curried favor with you first so that I'd get a bit more money. Qin Qing looked at Lin Che and said, do you still need money now? Of course I need it. While speaking, she walked with him outside. Qin Qing recalled the events of that day and said to Lin Che, a few days ago, your family members went to the Gu residence to look for you. Lin Che simply knew the moment when she thought about it. After they went back, they probably made up things about her that she did not know about. Lin Che looked at Qin Qing. Yes. What trouble did they cause after going back? Qin Qing said, it's true that your older sister did something bad. Lin Che said, to be honest, I didn't want to do that to her either. She knows herself what she did. Furthermore, I never said anything at all. Nor did I do anything. Even I couldn't stop them from seeking their own deaths. So no matter what they say about me now, I can only listen. All of a sudden, Lin Che's phone vibrated. Lin Che looked down and saw that her screen was displaying the words, dearest hubby. That endearment made Qin Qing blank out instantly. However, for some reason, his heart began to feel uneasy. Lin Che felt embarrassed as well. She herself was already used to this endearment. But after all, it was still a little embarrassing to answer the call when she was beside Qin Qing. She answered the call and said, what's up? Gu Jingze said, are you done? We agreed to go out for a meal. Oh, I'm already done. I'm walking out now. Alright, I'll get someone to go over and fetch you soon. I know already, you long-winded dork. If I don't nag you like this, I'm afraid that a retarded person like you won't be able to find the place. Get lost. Lin Che hung up the phone and lifted her head. She looked at the gaze which Qin Qing was directing to her and could not help but use her fingers to fix the hairs beside her ear in embarrassment. What happened? Continue speaking. Qin Qing looked at her handphone and thought, was that Gu Jingze? That, dearest hubby, was Gu Jingze. However, from listening to their tone, he could tell that their conversation was all very ordinary. It was all so natural, like something that they would say every day. Qin Qing said, you and Gu Jingze are really, quote. Why? Qin Qing said, it's nothing. It's just that I always felt that Gu Jingze was probably not a good person. At least to women, he was probably not the best choice. You actually deserve someone better. Lin Che smiled and looked at Qin Qing. What should the best choice be? Someone who suits you, Qin Qing said. Lin Che said, why are Gu Jingze and I not suited for each other? Qin Qing said, people like him have lives that are too complicated. Lin Che said, I know what you want to say. Because of my status, my family background, and my lifestyle are too different from his, the fact is that I'm not worthy of him. No, Qin Qing simply did not want to see them be together. Although these thoughts were evil, he simply could not control them. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. I just feel that I don't really like you and him being together. Lin Che lifted her head up in surprise. Qin Qing's expression was a little unnatural as he looked outside. Lin Che, we've known each other for so many years. Yes. From the beginning, you and I were merely classmates. HN, quote. Qin Qing looked at Lin Che. Did you ever like me? Lin Che looked at Qin Qing in astonishment. Chapter 152, he threw himself on her. Slightly surprised, Lin Che thought, could he have discovered the fact that she had secretly liked him in the past? Why did you suddenly ask this? Qin Qing said, it's nothing. Because I feel that our relationship in the past should have been pretty intimate. We were together every day. But why did you never like me before? Lin Che looked at Qin Qing's young face. She recalled those intimate episodes. They had indeed had an intimate past as friends and as classmates, but in the end, they did not end up together. Because he got together with Lin Li. If you gave me a chance to go back in time, perhaps I would have confessed to you, Lin Che smiled and said. But the unfortunate situation was that Lin Che had been too fragile and had felt too inferior at the time. From the beginning until the end, she had not dared to reveal what was weighing on her mind. Qin Qing's eyes brightened immediately. Lin Che broke out in laughter. Look, I scared you there. I'm just joking with you. I feel that it's probably because it didn't feel right. Anyway, aren't things great as they are now? You got together with Lin Li and from classmates, we became relatives. However, Qin immediately felt very disappointed. He looked at Lin Che. Could it really be that she had never liked him? Qin looked at Lin Che. She was playing with her hair and smiling softly with her eyes lowered. Her appearance made his heart suddenly move of its own accord. Lin Che waved at him. I'll be leaving first. I still have something to do. Qin nodded his head at this. As he watched her leave, he thought about how she was going to Gu Jingze's side. In his heart, he actually felt some resentment. However, he suddenly started to entertain an unexpected idea. He wanted to just steal Lin Che from Gu Jingze's side. But how could he steal her from such a powerful man like Gu Jingze? Qin thought, why did it just have to be Gu Jingze? If it was someone else, perhaps anyone, he could do it. But it just had to be Gu Jingze, who was better than everyone, whether it was wealth or power. At this moment, Qin saw something drop from above in front of him all of a sudden. It was currently falling straight down and the person under it was Lin Che. She was standing at the entrance and currently looking forward, not paying attention to anything else at all. Lin Che, move out of the way. Lin Che was still looking around but did not discover any trace of Gu Jingze. In the next moment, Qin shouted at the top of his voice from behind her and attracted her attention immediately. She turned her head back only to see Qin's gigantic body rushing directly at her. Before Lin Che could even react, he had already crashed heavily into her and sent her to the ground. Lin Che's mind instantly went blank. When her head cleared, Qin had already fallen on top of her. Shocked, Lin Che only noticed then that a huge piece of glass had fallen from above. Right now, it was completely smashed on the ground and also on Qin's body. She herself had only been protected from the numerous broken pieces because he had thrown her to the ground. Help! Save him! Quote. Lin Che had tossed all concerns aside. She quickly hugged Qin who was on the ground and started yelling. And on the other side, Gu Jingze had been waiting at the entrance for a long time but he did not see her come. He didn't know where this lass had run off to again. He held up his phone and gave Lin Che a call, but he realized that Lin Che had actually just switched off her phone. This troublesome lass, could she have stirred up some trouble again? Meanwhile, in the hospital, Lin Che was racked with anxiety as she looked at Qin get carried onto the bed. As he lay there on his stomach, the doctor removed the broken pieces of glass one by one from his body. Fresh blood was smeared all over his back. It really frightened her to look at it. Lin Che had heard her phone ringing earlier but before she had even grabbed it, she only felt Qin tightly clasping her hands in his. Left with no choice, Lin Che could only switch off her phone as she heard it continue to make noise. As she looked at Qin like this, her heart was already in utter chaos compared to earlier. She did not expect that Qin would help her ward off a disaster like this. In her heart, she felt both guilty and sad. Why did he have to do this? It looked so painful. Gu Jingze's car was parked outside the mall. Seeing that Gu Jingze was inside, a bodyguard walked over and said, "Earlier, Madam did not leave with the staff after finishing her event. She came to the entrance alone because she had to wait for Sir. From what we heard, Madam came out together with the second young master of the Qin family." The second young master of the Qin family. Qin. The expression on his face turned solemn in an instant. The bodyguard hastily asked, "Sir, in that case, now." Quote. "We're going back." Gu Jingze pursed his lips and gestured for the car window to be wound up. The car window slowly rolled up. The driver said, "Sir, we have to take the road behind. The road in the front seems to have been cordoned off because something fell from the building above and injured someone." No matter which road they took, he simply wanted to go home now. At the hospital, Lin Che was still thinking about Gu Jingze's earlier call. In a moment of anxiousness, she did not know how to explain the situation and so she did not pick up. She saw that Qin seemed to have gotten much better. He was lying down on his stomach inside. He had already worn his clothes properly, taken his medicine, and was also hooked up to an intravenous unit. His condition had stabilized immensely. She finally held up her phone. However, before she had even called, Qin suddenly made a sound from inside. Lin Che, Lin Che. Lin Che hastily put down her phone and walked over. Qin Qing, what happened? Are you hurting anywhere? Qin Qing suddenly grabbed Lin Che's hands. Lin Che made little of this. When they were putting medicine on him earlier, it had been like this too. He had been holding on to her tightly. It was probably because he was injured. It was always good to have a familiar person by one's side. Qin Qing looked at Lin Che. Don't go. Alright, I won't go. Qin Qing, what's your house number? I should call them. Your condition now is probably not too good. Will there be a risk of infection? We're in city hospital and it's not our best hospital either. Do you want to call your family and ask them how they want to deal with this? No, I just want to be together with you. Quote ellipsis. Lin Che said stupidly, but I'm right here. No, Lin Che, I want to be alone with you. Quote ellipsis. Lin Che's heart froze. She looked at Qin Qing. Qin Qing, you, quote. Qin Qing clasped her hands tightly in his instead. Lin Che, I suddenly had courage in that moment earlier. I felt like I could do anything for you. Is this abnormal or not? Lin Che immediately became alarmed. What are you talking about? Quote. Qin Qing said, I know that saying this now isn't good. But Lin Che, I suddenly feel slightly regretful. Perhaps I should have treated you a little better in the past. Then, you wouldn't be together with Gu Jingze. Lin Che was completely flustered and quickly let go of Qin Qing's hands. Qin Qing grasped at air and looked at Lin Che. You, quote. Lin Che knew that she had secretly been in love with Qin Qing for a long time. However, his sudden confession at this moment only made her extremely shocked. To her surprise, she no longer felt a sense of happiness. Youth was just like a grand show of missed opportunities. When you truly came to a realization, it was too late to do anything. And what was left now was only panic. There was no longer an ounce of pleasant surprise. Qin Qing, you already have Lin Li. You're my sister's fiancé. You're my brother-in-law. Qin Qing's heart twitched. In a moment of bleakness, he looked at Lin Che. I thought that you'd at least liked me before. Did you really never like me at all? Since she had already let the opportunity slip, it was probably better to simply not turn back again. Lin Che shook her head. Not at all. Qin Qing's face sank. When he thought of Gu Jingze, he understood in his heart that there was probably no way that he himself could compare to Gu Jingze. Chapter 153. You don't need to explain. Because of Gu Jingze. He smiled bleakly as he spoke. Lin Che shook her head and looked at Qin Qing. At the very least, this was the young boy that she had liked in the past. Liking someone or not isn't because of someone else. If you like someone, you simply like them. There was never a need to compare them to someone else. She turned her head and simply walked out. She switched on her phone after a lot of difficulty and saw that there were already countless missed calls. When she walked out, she immediately saw the butler presently waiting outside for her. Lin Che said frantically, Butler, how did you know that I was here? The butler said quickly, Sir looked for you for a very long time. He said that you didn't meet him for dinner and he didn't know where you had gone. Lin Che slapped her head. Right, I completely forgot about dinner. Something cropped up on my end. The subordinates will handle this matter for you. Madam, you can just go back first. Lin Che said, all right then. There's nothing much else to do here anyway. Lin Che got into the car that was to send her home. She was thinking about the butler who was always calm and steady but looked extremely unusual today. She did not know what had happened and hurriedly grabbed the driver in front. Is your sir angry? This man was so petty. He was definitely angry. The driver looked at Lin Che awkwardly. He knew that this madam of his was usually loud, careless, and did not put on airs. However, today sir was indeed. None of them dared to speak another word. He could only say, Madam, you'll know when you get back. With one look, Lin Che knew that things were not good. She thought frantically, could it be that he was so angry because she had stood him up? Knowing that she was at fault in this matter, she hastily drafted a speech in her mind and proceeded to enter. Coincidentally, Gu Jingze was walking out in quick steps towards her. He immediately saw Lin Che pushing the door and coming in. His jet black gaze flashed with slight gloominess. His heavy gaze landed on Lin Che. He glanced at her before directly skimming over her head and walking straight outside. As Lin Che watched him stretch his long legs apart and walk out, she quickly said, "I'm sorry. It's my fault. Gu Jingze, I shouldn't have stood you up and shouldn't have ignored your calls. But it's because I really had something on and was momentarily flustered, so I didn't notice. His gloomy gaze turned to her. The lines on his face that he had inadvertently concealed followed suit and turned completely cold. As if he was a stone that had been completely steeped in ice, a chill emanated from him that penetrated to the bottom of her heart. He really did not know if he should be angrier that she simply did not pick up her phone or because she actually did not pick up her phone because of him. He looked at Lin Che coldly, momentarily flustered. Why didn't she say who she had gotten flustered over? Gu Jingze stretched his long legs out again and walked out in large strides. Lin Che panicked and called out from behind, "Gu Jingze, are you really angry?" Seeing that Gu Jingze did not even turn his head back, she hurriedly chased after him. "Gu Jingze, why are you being like this? You just got so angry without even asking me one question. It's really because something cropped up. Also, I just stood you up once. Do you really have to get this angry? Explain." Gu Jingze stared at Lin Che. What explanation do I even need? Lin Che held onto the car door. Gu Jingze's gaze landed on her hand. He stretched out his hand and gently pushed it aside. Do I have to wait for you to explain that you went to the hospital for the sake of the man you love? That you didn't pick up my calls because you had to look after a sick man? She was indeed stupid, she thought. He must have known. That was why he instructed the butler to look for her at the hospital. There was nothing that Gu Jingze did not know. But, I'll just ask you this. Do you still remember that he's your older sister's fiancé? Someone whom you're supposed to call brother-in-law? After leaving behind this sentence that cut like a knife, Gu Jingze directly gestured for the car to be started. Lin Che could only stand there and watch his car leave. What the hell was this? She had not forgotten that he was her brother-in-law. That was precisely why she had ultimately walked out of that hospital ward. At the hospital, Qin Qing was very perplexed. He had clearly not told anyone, but unexpectedly, the doctor still informed him that they were going to transfer him to another hospital, a trauma hospital that was better and more specialized. Before long, he was brought to the best military hospital in all of C Nation and checked into the VIP ward here. As before, he could only lie there on his stomach. When he saw the nurses scurrying back and forth, he quickly stopped someone and asked, "Why am I here? Where are my family members? Have my family members come?" He could only think, had Lin Che informed the Qin family? It was just that if his family knew, they would likely have come to visit him immediately. But at this moment, they had not. The nurse looked at him awkwardly. When he wanted to speak again, he heard the steady sound of leather shoes stepping on the ground and approaching from a distance. He froze before raising his head. From far away, he saw a line of people following the man in the middle as he walked over step after step. The person who had come was Gu Jingze. He was dressed in all black. It made his originally dark gaze appear even more dreary. Also, his pair of sinister and ruthless eyes appeared even more cuttingly stern at this moment. When he looked over, he emitted an unchanging calmness. Yet there was also some hidden darkness. Why did he come? Gu Jingze's gaze landed on him. Qin Qing hurriedly got up and said, "President Gu. No need for that. I heard from Lin Che that it was you who had saved her. I'm very grateful for your heroic actions, so I specifically came to take a look. This place is pretty comfortable to stay in. This hospital is extremely good. I've already entrusted you to the people at this hospital. They'll definitely assist you in a quick recovery. Thus, the second young master doesn't have to worry about any other matters. The second young master can just focus on getting better. I've already instructed someone to inform your family members. They'll come here very soon to look after the second young master." Lin Che. Lin Che had told Gu Jingze. Disappointment flashed across Qin Qing's face. He looked ahead at a loss. He knew in his heart that he was very sad, but then again, there was no way for him to express it. Since Lin Che had told Gu Jingze and even gotten Gu Jingze to come and look after him, That meant that she no longer wanted to have any association with him. It looked like she had really never liked him. Qin Qing smiled dryly and said, "Thank you. It was something I should have done. After all, Lin Che is a woman. It wouldn't be good if it left a scar on her." Gu Jingze said, "But I still want to thank second young master. After all, second young master did it for Lin Che. That counts as doing it for me too." Qin Qing looked around. No wonder he was able to come to the VIP ward of this hospital. He then looked at the people beside him. No wonder Lin Che liked him. Who would not like a man like this? Even if she knew that it was dangerous, she would not give up either. Qin Qing thought, his confession today really became a joke. Even if they were to do a brief comparison, every single person on the street would choose Gu Jingze too and not him. However, Qin Qing still could not help his distress. If only he had realized how good Lin Che was a little earlier. Chapter 154. That's precisely what being jealous is. Lin Che waited a very long time at home. She called Gu Jingze but he did not pick up either. She asked the maids beside her and the security guards outside but all of them said that they did not know where Gu Jingze was. She angrily held up her phone and sent a few messages to Gu Jingze first. She did not care whether or not Gu Jingze would see them. "Gu Jingze, I don't know why you got angry. Since you already know that I was only at the hospital because Qin Qing had gotten injured, then do you also already know that he protected me from the object that fell from above? That's the only reason why the person in the hospital now isn't me. So what's wrong with me looking after him for a bit in the hospital? Why must you get angry? Surely, I shouldn't repay his kindness with ingratitude and ignore him. Would doing that be right?" After she sent the message, there was still no response. Alone on the bed, Lin Che lay on her stomach. She waited for a long time and felt even more strongly that she was literally waiting for someone who would not repent. She felt that rotten. Forget it, since he wanted to be angry, then he could just be angry. Lin Che did not want to bother with him anymore. She fell into a fitful sleep. The next day, she went directly to the filming venue. She did not even want to go home when night came. She wanted to just stay overnight at the filming site. During the breaks in filming, Lin Che thought of Qin Qing. It was not convenient for her to go over and look after him again. Then, he would overthink. However, it would be better if she called him first and asked about his condition. After the call went through, Qin Qing's voice sounded very gloomy over the phone. "Hello. Qin Qing, it's me. I'm filming and I'm a little busy so I can't go and visit you." Qin Qing smiled. "I've already transferred to another hospital. Thank you." "Oh, is that so? That's good. I was still worried that the facilities in that hospital were not good enough and would interfere with your condition." "Thanks for your thoughts. Actually, it doesn't matter. All of my injuries are just external injuries." "Of course it matters. You only got injured because of me." She did not know currently that Qin Qing still thought that she had asked Gu Jingze to change his ward. Both of them were each saying what they wanted to but neither spoke very clearly. Qin Qing smiled as he said, "Don't overthink it. Putting aside the fact that we've known each other for so many years, you're as close to me as a biological sister would be. Even if it was a stranger, how could I just watch a person get hurt? It doesn't matter." Actually, Qin Qing was a very good person too. With her phone in her hand, Lin Che paused and remained silent for a long time. Then, she said into the phone, "Thank you, Qin Qing." "Silly," Qin Qing said, "in the future, you're still my sister. You're still my good friend." Lin Che put down the phone but she began to feel even more sad. Time was really a strange thing. It washed away so many feelings and took away so many regrets. A day had passed but she still had not received any news from Gu Jingze. Even Yu Minmin noticed that Lin Che's mind was occupied with other things. As she looked at Lin Che playing with her phone over there, Yu Minmin walked over and said, "Hey, what's wrong with you? You're so out of it today." "No way, I filmed all my scenes in one take today." Yu Minmin said, "I'm not talking about filming. Look at yourself. After filming, you nestled yourself here immediately and your expression has simply not been good. Didn't you realize? Today, no one in the production team has dared to come and bother you at all." Lin Che blinked as she raised her head. Really? My expression is that terrible? Yu Minmin said, that's a given. Lin Che got up and looked at Yu Minmin, exactly how terrible is it? Is my expression just very rotten? What do you think? Oh my god, Lin Che said, how come I didn't sense it at all? But why is everyone afraid of bothering me? Because they're afraid that you'll throw a tantrum. No way, I'm so kind and cute. That's how you are usually. But today, you look like an old witch, Yu Minmin said bluntly. Lin Che sighed as she looked at Yu Minmin. Sister Yu, in your opinion, if a man always gets angry for no reason, what does it mean? Yu Minmin said, oh, no wonder you're so distracted today. Gu Jingze got angry at you. What happened? How did he get angry? Quote ellipsis. Lin Che lowered her head. Only after a long time did she say, it went like this. Quote. Lin Che briefly summarized what had happened. She did not mention that Qin Qing had unexpectedly and inconceivably confessed to her. In any case, that did not count as a proper confession either. It was possible that it was merely just thinking of possibilities. Yu Minmin looked at Lin Che with surprise, you're really great. You've already gotten together with Gu Jingze but you still have a male childhood friend who got injured on your behalf. Are you trying to make every woman envy you to death? Sister Yu, just tell me what to now. If he's injured, he's just injured. I can't leave him be either. But that Gu Jingze is really too petty. He actually ignored me just because I stood him up. Yu Minmin looked at Lin Che, you're sure that he's not just jealous? What? Lin Che looked at Yu Minmin in front of her with an astounded expression. Yu Minmin slapped the table, that's enough. You can't even tell. Gu Jingze's not angry because you stood him up. He's angry because you stood him up for the sake of your childhood sweetheart. Are you kidding me? That's precisely what being jealous is. Quote ellipsis. Really? Lin Che fidgeted as she looked at Yu Minmin. That's not possible. She really did not want to flatter herself. Alright, men need cajoling, especially jealous men. Lower your stance a little and cajole him properly. Everything will be fine then. Go back quickly and stop wasting time here. Quote ellipsis. Quote. All of a sudden, someone came to look for Lin Che outside. Sister Che, someone is waiting for you outside the venue, the assistant director ran over as he spoke. From his tone and gaze, it seemed that the person who had come was a little unordinary. Lin Che looked at Yu Minmin. Upon seeing Yu Minmin nod at her encouragingly, she ran out in a rush. However, when she arrived outside, she saw that the person standing outside was Chen Yucheng. Dr. Chen, why are you here? Chen Yucheng looked at Lin Che, you haven't gone home for more than a day. Lin Che pursed her lips, yes. It's because I'm afraid of irritating someone if I go back. Chen Yucheng said, hey. I really don't know what exactly Gu Jingze owes you. What? Chen Yucheng said, he must have had a fair amount of enmity with you in his past life. So you came to torment him after reincarnation in this life. Dumbfounded, Lin Che said, exactly who is tormenting who? Chen Yucheng said, are you still going back to see Gu Jingze one last time? What? Upon hearing this, Lin Che got shocked. Chen Yucheng said, Gu Jingze is about to die. You, what are you saying? Quote. He's about to be angered to death by you. Quote ellipsis. Quote. Lin Che glared at this Chen Yucheng who spoke in bits and pieces. Get lost. Upon seeing that Lin Che had lost interest, Chen Yucheng quickly said, all right. I won't joke with you anymore. But Gu Jingze is really ill. Lin Che's expression froze as she looked at Chen Yucheng. Ill. Why? Chapter 155. If you're ill, you must eat something. When Lin Che rushed back home, she realized that there were even more security guards outside. Surveillance also seemed to be much more strict than usual. She looked outside with a face full of worry. As Chen Yucheng was driving, he looked outside and said, because President Gu is ill, he's worried that someone will take the chance to stir up trouble. Thus, the security outside is more strict. Oh, Lin Che turned her head to look at Chen Yucheng, is Gu Jingze very seriously ill? Not really, Chen Yucheng said, to other people, it may be nothing. But after all, Gu Jingze is in a high position and has great power. For a person like him, a sign of disturbance or trouble does not just affect one or two people. Alright then. Lin Che arrived at the entrance very soon after. She entered the room, changed her shoes and quickly ran in. Madam, you're finally back. Upon seeing that Lin Che had returned, the maid who had just been chased out from the room quickly smiled and went up to welcome her. Lin Che saw that the food she was carrying had not been touched at all. She asked, he didn't eat it? Yes, sir did not want to eat it. Lin Che took the plate from her and quietly pushed open the bedroom door. It was totally silent inside as if no one was here. She walked in only to see Gu Jingze currently lying on the bed. He was covered in a thick and heavy blanket. His handsome face was deathly pale and his complexion was sickly. He looked extremely unwell. Lin Che's heart ached and she quickly walked to him. It looked like he was very seriously ill. As if he had heard a sound, Gu Jingze did not open his eyes but simply groaned. In a hoarse voice, he called out, I've already said that no one is allowed to come in at all. However, Gu Jingze raised his head only to see no one other than Lin Che. She was standing at the door and carrying a plate in an appeasing manner like a hard-working servant. A sliver of radiance flashed across Gu Jingze's eyes. However, it was fleeting and very soon after, his eyes reverted to being cold. His eyebrows were raised very high as he glared at Lin Che with his lips pressed tightly together. Get lost. Lin Che's face sank immediately. As she looked at Gu Jingze, she told herself mentally to forget it and to not be too argumentative with a patient. Furthermore, how could she bear to leave when Gu Jingze was ill to such a serious extent that he looked so bad? She quickly walked over and put the tray at the side. She pulled Gu Jingze up and said, Gu Jingze, you're ill. Don't make a fuss. Get up quickly and eat something. The maid said that you didn't eat for a day. You'll drag down your body if you continue doing this. She pulled Gu Jingze's shoulders and tried to get him to sit up. With a loathing expression on his face, Gu Jingze pushed her hand aside. I asked you to get lost. Did you hear me? Lin Che was pushed to the side. She looked at Gu Jingze and gritted her teeth. However, she still said to him, that's enough, Gu Jingze. Lin Che stood up and went to his side once again. I know that you're ill and probably can't eat anything. But ultimately, you still have to put something in your stomach. Listen to me, I'll feed you. While saying this, Lin Che grabbed his arm once again. Gu Jingze still pushed her away hard. I told you to go away. Do you have any shame at all? I asked you to go but you're not leaving either. At least he did not completely push her away this time. Lin Che merely retreated one step backward before finding her balance again. She took a deep breath as she looked at Gu Jingze. What? I simply have no shame. Can't I be like this? Anyway, I'm not some girl from a wealthy family or some rich young heiress like you people who just care about reputation and suffer terribly as a result. I'm simply shameless. What can you do about it? You. Gu Jingze raised his eyes and looked at Lin Che sharply. Lin Che stood there confidently and looked at Gu Jingze. She took advantage of the fact that he was lying there sick and stood as straight as a ramrod. A slight hint of frustration appeared in Gu Jingze's eyes. She herself had even said that she was simply shameless. What else could anyone do to her? Quick, get up and eat something, Lin Che continued to say from the side. I'm not eating. Why are you so disobedient? Lin Che said helplessly. Go out. I refuse to go out. Lin Che went closer and pressed Gu Jingze's arms down. She directly picked up the spoon at the side. The chef had specially made a nutritious meal that was not greasy but still tasted good. Indeed, he had taken to great pains. In particular, the soup just looked very appetizing. However, Gu Jingze still did not appreciate the good intentions. Seeing that Lin Che had hardened her approach, Gu Jingze frowned and evaded her. Let go of me. I won't let go. Lin Che, you really don't want to live anymore, right? Gu Jingze looked at her with a piercing gaze. His eyes were threatening and filled with warnings as if he would absolutely kill her if she touched him again even slightly. However, Lin Che still did not move and directly brought the spoon to his mouth. Gu Jingze immediately gritted his teeth and slapped the food to the ground with his hand in one swift motion. Gu Jingze. Lin Che was really angry. She looked at Gu Jingze. He was so disobedient even when he was sick. Did he think he was a child? Fine, fine, you won't eat. I'll make sure you eat today anyway. As Lin Che said this, she took a step and walked onto the bed. Gu Jingze's eyes moved only to see Lin Che directly straddle his body. Gu Jingze's eyes widened instantly. As she sat on him, Lin Che looked down at Gu Jingze. I must make you eat today. Lin Che, what are you doing? Feeding you soup. You, quote. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che as she grabbed the bowl and drank a huge mouthful of soup from it. Then, with her cheeks puffed up, she directly threw herself at Gu Jingze. Before Gu Jingze even had time to react, her lips had already landed on his. Upon coming into contact with her soft lips, he subconsciously opened his mouth. The tip of her tongue pried his mouth open and the delicious soup flowed in smoothly. Gu Jingze felt that it was wrong. Was he being forcefully fed by her? He still wanted to resist, but he felt Lin Che's tongue stirring inside. It stopped all of his movements. He accidentally swallowed and the soup went down his throat. Gu Jingze frowned. His throat bobbed as he looked at Lin Che. She straightened herself up proudly. She was still straddling him and her movements were strange. She wiped her own mouth and lowered her head to look at him. Gu Jingze's eyes moved as he looked at Lin Che. His gaze was clear and bright with a hint of red. The tip of his ears was even slowly turning red. Lin Che said, "You won't drink it. I'll make sure you drink." As she said this, she still wanted to continue. Gu Jingze quickly stopped her. All right, stop it. Lin Che stopped moving and looked at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze's face was red from holding it in. He looked at Lin Che speechlessly. The expression on his face looked as if he wanted to strangle her to death. It was as if he really would kill her if not for the fact that killing was against the law. However, in the end, his eyes moved and he could only say, "I'll drink. If you dare to feed me like this again." Quote. It was fine for him to feed her like that, but how could she force him like this? Gu Jingze really could not at all accept the fact that he had been forced by a woman, much less his own woman. Seeing that Gu Jingze had finally agreed, Lin Che cheered, "That's great. Now, you're obedient." Gu Jingze looked at her sitting on him indecently with her legs spread open. He glanced at her, "So can you get off me?" Quote ellipsis. Quote. Chapter 156. I'll lie with you to warm you up. Lin Che hurriedly jumped off his body. She clapped her hands and said, "I momentarily forgot. Come, let me feed you." Gu Jingze glared at her. From the side, Lin Che carefully held up the spoon and fed him one mouthful at a time. He finished everything off thoroughly. However, he still moved occasionally. He raised his head to glare at her as if he bore some deep-seated hatred in his heart. Lin Che pursed her lips and ignored him. It was fine as long as he was eating. "But how did you get the flu?" Lin Che asked. "Everyone gets the flu," he said. "Of course, I know that. But why did you suddenly get the flu? Why, are you losing patience because I have the flu and need you to wait on me? In that case, you can leave," Gu Jingze said in a bad temper. "Hey, when did I say that?" She glared at him fiercely. "I'm truly the little bride who gets bullied. On one hand, you're scolding me. On the other hand, I still have to wait on you. It's really pitiful." Gu Jingze glared at her. "Serves you right." Lin Che glanced at him with displeasure. "Furthermore, there's really nothing between me and Chin Ching." As she said this, she sneaked a glance at his expression. She recalled what Yu Minmin had said about him getting jealous. Was he really jealous? Sure enough, Gu Jingze's eyes suddenly flashed. He glared at her even more sharply. Lin Che said, "Really? I just happened to meet him at the mall and we exchanged a few words. Who knew that a piece of glass would fall from the sky? It's really scary when I think about how I nearly got disfigured. But at any rate, I've known him for so long. He would definitely help me out. Since he helped me, I can't just not help either. So, quote. That's enough." Gu Jingze's face darkened as he interrupted her. "I don't want to listen to your dumb explanations. Alright, I just explained to you because I was afraid you were jealous." Quote ellipsis. Gu Jingze burst out in laughter. "Who is jealous? Aren't you being jealous? Gu Jingze gritted his teeth and looked at her. I was worried about your intelligence. What does this have to do with my intelligence? Lin Che asked in a nonplussed tone. Gu Jingze's eyes shifted. He glared at Lin Che and said, because when things happen, you should know your position. That's your future brother-in-law. If anything happens, you shouldn't be at his side. If something goes wrong, do you think you should be the one to see him for the last time? Do you think you're the one who can be responsible for him? No, the people responsible for his life are your sister and his family, not you, his sister-in-law. So what you should have done from the start was to leave him and call his family and your sister. Lin Che's face immediately turned red out of guilt. I didn't think that much at the time. Then, think more in the future. Forget it. Don't overthink either. In the future, call me first if anything happens. With your level of intelligence, thinking more won't work either. Quote. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze. So, you really weren't jealous? Jealous, my ass. Quickly feed me. Gu Jingze's face was slightly red. He could not help but curse even though he usually did not curse at all. Lin Che quickly lowered her head and started feeding him. Gu Jingze glared at her and drew in a deep breath. His gaze also began to calm down. After a lot of difficulties, Lin Che finished feeding him. She went out to return the tray. She looked at the maids and asked, how exactly did your sir get sick? This happened so suddenly. The maid said, Madam, you're the only one who can feed him anything. He did not eat at all no matter which one of us brought him food. No way, Lin Che said, it's because none of you can rebel against him. The maid said, yesterday, sir swam in the pool for the whole day. So he fell ill with fever when night came. He still doesn't seem better today. We're dying from worry. He swam for a day. Seriously. How could he not fall ill when he was this rebellious? Lin Che shook her head while thinking. It would still be better for her to go back and wait upon the ill, naughty child. That night, Gu Jingze still had a high fever. Lin Che gave him medicine but he still did not seem to get better. As Lin Che watched Gu Jingze's complexion worsened, she started getting very worried too. She could only sit by the bed and look at Gu Jingze. After taking his medicine, he slept very uncomfortably. She herself did not dare to doze off either. When Lin Che heard him let out a sound, she hastily bent over and grabbed his hands. Gu Jingze, what happened to you? Gu Jingze hummed. Lin Che, quote. I'm here. Lin Che. Here, I'm here. Lin Che quickly clasped his hands tightly. She felt the sweat all over his palms and quickly picked up her phone. She wanted to go and make a call but she could still feel Gu Jingze pulling her. His brow was furrowed and he looked like he was in great agony. Lin Che could only helplessly stay here and call Chen Yucheng. Dr. Chen, Gu Jingze's fever is high and it won't subside. Do you want to come over and take a look? Oh, how high is it? It's at 38.7 degrees Celsius. That's fine though. Look for me again if it hits 39 degrees Celsius. Quote. I'm serious. The medicine he usually takes makes him susceptible to a high fever. His fever has even hit 41 degrees Celsius before. 38 degrees Celsius is nothing to him. Are you serious? Quote. If you're so worried, you can do some exercises with him. Maybe he'll simply get better after sweating a little. He's dizzy and groggy. What exercise can he even do? Bedtime exercises. Quote. Chen Yucheng hung up the phone directly and left Lin Che with no choice. She looked at Gu Jingze while touching his forehead tenderly. Gu Jingze, get better quickly. Gu Jingze, how are you feeling? She sensed that Gu Jingze's mouth suddenly moved. His mouth seemed to be saying, cold, cold. When Lin Che saw this, she went into a frenzy. She covered him with the blanket but it still did not seem to work. Lin Che got anxious, immediately lifted the blanket with no hesitation, and burrowed herself under it. She looked at Gu Jingze and hugged him tightly. She felt him touch her and he seemed to move closer to her instinctively. That feeling warmed her heart instantly for some strange reason. She pressed herself against his cheek and said softly, seriously. Why did you swim for so long for no reason? He woke up dazed and groggy. He seemed to see a woman beside him. She was moving her soft lips and looking at him. Her gentle complaints and her worried expression spoke louder than her words. Gu Jingze, are you awake? That's great. You scared me to death. As Lin Che embraced him, her body rubbed against his. The soft touch made his heart itch. He lowered his head to look at Lin Che with squinted eyes. With a flip of his body, he suddenly hugged Lin Che. Ah, you, quote. Lin Che shouted in surprise but felt Gu Jingze brush his lips lightly over hers while saying, don't go, don't go. Don't go, all right. That sound nearly made Lin Che's heart melt completely. How could she still bear to leave? I won't go, I won't go. She reassured him as she laced her fingers into his hair. That tender voice instantly made his expression tight. All of a sudden, his arm wrapped around her body forcefully. He hooked her head with his arm and deepened the kiss. With great force, he squeezed between her lips with the boiling hot tip of his tongue. Chapter 157. Lin Che whimpered. She felt the sensation of boiling heat cause her body to tremble in waves. It was as if a shock of electricity had hit the top of her head and continued to attack downwards. Her heart and body were already shaken up, but it instantly made her tighten up completely. As he hugged her, she felt the heat from all over his body. Her hand was still pressing against his front chest, but it was also frighteningly hot there. It even made her momentarily feel that he was just a fragile doll. She did not dare to simply touch him and did not dare to use force against him either. He was kissing her with more and more force. It was as if he wanted to suck her entire soul out of her body along with everything else. As if this was still not enough, he wanted even more. Just like a starving leopard, he bit her lips very hard. Consumed in pain, she groaned faintly. Fresh blood oozed out and the acrid taste seemed to make him even more crazed. With a simple turn of his body, he pushed her hard onto the blanket. His body was as hot as a fireball as it clamped down tightly on her. He gripped both of Lin Che's hands tightly and pressed it down on both sides. All 10 of his long, slender fingers hooked her fingers tightly. His lips left her mouth and moved all the way down. Lin Che felt her body tighten up even more. Her fingers clasped his fingers tightly. She became completely alarmed and nervous as well. But then, she lost her mind over and over again with each kiss. Although this was not Lin Che's first time, it was still very painful. It had happened too suddenly the last time. When she recalled it now, she still felt like it was a dream. However, this time, it happened in an astonishingly detailed manner. Too much time had passed since the first time. She felt like she was experiencing it again. Her entire body was in pain as if it had been cooked through. Gu Jingze released Lin Che and lay there while panting. He only turned his head after a long time to look at the marks spread all over Lin Che's body. He did not know if it was due to the fever or if his face really was red. At this moment, it looked just like iron that had turned red from high heat. It was swelled up and red. He said to Lin Che, go take a shower. Lin Che did not move at all. She turned her body to the opposite side in reluctance. I don't want to, quote. Gu Jingze did not have a choice. He could only prop himself up and pat her. However, she still did not move. So he could only say, I'll help you, as he lifted Lin Che in his arms in one swift motion. Lin Che whined. She could still feel the heat on his body, but it also seemed to have gotten much better than it had been just now. It was just that the sweat that was sticky on her skin made her feel extremely uncomfortable. He said, it's uncomfortable if you don't shower. Let's go. Lin Che did not move. She sensed that he had already placed her in the bathtub. The temperature of the water raining down on her was just nice. As it washed her body, it immediately woke her up after some struggle. Her face was red as she looked at Gu Jingze. There's no need. I'll do it myself. Gu Jingze frowned and looked at her. It's all right. I'll do it. Don't move. While saying this, he had already held Lin Che down and started to wash her gently and meticulously. Lin Che did not dare to look at him at all. She turned her head away with her hand covering her face. After a lot of difficulties, he finished washing her. Then, she sensed that he was retrieving the bathrobe behind her. He wrapped her whole body in the bathrobe before lifting her in his arms and carrying her back to the bed step by step. It was only when Lin Che sensed that Gu Jingze had left again, probably to take a shower himself too, that Lin Che pulled the whole bathrobe so that it was tighter around her. Her face was so hot that she could die from the heat. She did not know how much time had passed. However, Gu Jingze had still not returned. Lin Che was still nestled in the bathrobe. She did not seem to hear any sound coming from the bathroom except for the sound of rushing water. Immediately, she felt that something was wrong. She quickly flipped her body around and got up. After wearing the bathrobe properly, she hurried to the bathroom. Gu Jingze, you're still not done showering. Lin Che first knocked on the door. However, there was no sound. Shocked, Lin Che hastily pulled the door open. Only to see that Gu Jingze had actually fallen to the floor just like that. Lin Che was truly frightened. She quickly ran in and pulled Gu Jingze up. Gu Jingze, wake up. Quote. He himself was already like this. Where exactly had he found the strength to carry her here for a shower earlier? When Lin Che recalled this, she still felt guilty. However, right now she had finally stopped thinking about her embarrassing state earlier. It was not convenient for her to call for help in this situation either. She could only hold him up herself as they walked towards the bed. After struggling for a while, she toppled him onto the bed, dressed him properly in his pajamas, and laid the blanket over him. She was already sweating buckets. She touched his forehead only to feel that its temperature had risen again. Instinctively, she quickly called Chen Yucheng. Chen Yucheng was obviously still in a dream-like state. When he heard her voice he said groggily, Madam Gu, what happened again? Quote. The situation isn't good. Gu Jingze just fainted. Quick, come and take a look. Lin Che was really frightened. She had never seen Gu Jingze this weak. He seemed to have lost all of his strength. As he lay there, it was as if he would stop breathing in the next moment. This tall and strongly built man had always given her the impression that he could do anything and stood high above the masses. However, his illness has unexpectedly gotten so severe today. It really made her feel completely at a loss all of a sudden. Lin Che applied an ice compress on him for a while. Thereafter, she took a towel and continuously wiped him down. She wiped his arms, his underarms, and his front chest. Before Chen Yucheng arrived, she did not stop even for a moment. She did this until Chen Yucheng finally came. When he knocked on the door and entered, Lin Che quickly ran to him. Dr. Chen, quick, take a look and tell me exactly what to do now. Chen Yucheng walked in and took a look. It seemed that he also had not expected Gu Jingze to suddenly have such a high fever. No way. Why did his fever suddenly rise? Did he take his medicine to bring down his fever? He took it but it had no effect. Chen Yucheng drew some blood from Gu Jingze. Thereafter, he put him on an intravenous drip. While looking at the ice compress and the towel that Lin Che had placed at the side, he smiled and said, looks like Madame Gu took pretty good care of him. Flabbergasted, Lin Che said, pretty good care. If you still didn't come, I would have died from shock. I just wanted to give Madame Gu an opportunity to shine. If I continued to do it even for a little while longer, Gu Jingze would have died. Chen Yucheng packed up and left. I'll just wait outside. You can call for me if there's any problem. Lin Che nodded and turned to look at Gu Jingze. She kept feeling sad. After Chen Yucheng left, Lin Che simply stayed by his side and watched over him. Occasionally, she would check up on him. The sky gradually began to brighten. When Gu Jingze woke up, Lin Che was bent over the side of the bed. It looked like a very uncomfortable sleeping position. Gu Jingze moved and Lin Che immediately propped herself up. How are you? How are you? Seeing that Gu Jingze had finally awoken, Lin Che instantly threw herself at him. How are you, Gu Jingze? Do you still feel discomfort anywhere? Gu Jingze frowned and looked at Lin Che. Did you just bend over the bed and sleep here? Yes. Lin Che wiped her mouth because she thought that there was drool on her face from having slept there bent over. However, she did not really feel anything there. Gu Jingze frowned and looked at her small movements. He shook his head speechlessly. After Gu Jingze woke up, Chen Yucheng came in very soon after and began to examine him. Chapter 158. Don't overexert yourself. Your fever was triggered by pneumonia. Yesterday, you already had a slight fever in the day. But how did it get so serious in the night? Clearly, I gave an adequate amount of medicine. It wouldn't trigger such a huge reaction. Lin Che suddenly recalled some things that had happened last night. She raised her head, looked at Gu Jingze, and sneaked a glance at him. Immediately, her face began to turn red. As for Gu Jingze, some things came up in his mind instantly as well. He instinctively glanced at Lin Che beside him. Naturally, these small movements did not escape Chen Yucheng's gaze. He raised his eyes to look at the two of them and broke into a smile. I don't mean to blame you, President Gu. But if your body isn't feeling too well, then don't overexert yourself. Certain things can be done at other times. Quote. Gu Jingze said, what did you say? However, when his usually stern and completely stoic face was seen with Lin Che's face at the side, which was flushed completely red to the base of her neck, it also lost most of its persuasiveness. Chen Yucheng glanced at Lin Che at the side and let out a dry cough. Then, I'll leave him on the drip. There shouldn't be any complications. If there's any problem, I'm always here. Chen Yucheng packed up his toolbox. While he was walking out, he turned his head to say, oh, right. I still don't recommend any physical activity at the moment, especially vigorous physical activity that wastes your time and energy. Gu Jingze grabbed a book and threw it at him. Before the book landed on the ground, Chen Yucheng hurriedly opened the door and ran out. Lin Che's face was already unbearably red. She stood there fiddling with her clothes. The bottom of her clothes was about to fray completely from her actions, but she still did not notice. Gu Jingze remained silent as he raised his head to look at Lin Che. Lin Che's face was red and her eyes were continuously darting around. Only after a long time did Gu Jingze say, you didn't get a good rest last night. Go to sleep first. Lin Che lifted her head. No, I still feel alright, I'm not tired. If I ask you to go, just go, Gu Jingze said. Lin Che said, there's no need. I should still stay here and look after you. After all, you're still sick. I'm not so sick that I can't move. But, Lin Che, you even fainted last night. I can't go. When Lin Che got stubborn, she was very stubborn too. She would not listen to anyone at all. Gu Jingze glanced at the marks on her body and instantly lowered his head. He still felt that some things should not be avoided and could not be avoided. If certain things happened, they simply happened as a matter of fact. Last night, Gu Jingze had never dealt with something like this either. Last night probably happened because he was sick and his willpower was not as strong. That was why things had turned out this way now. He was just about to say that he would not treat last night as if it had not happened. However, he heard Lin Che say frantically from the side, oh, I understand. You didn't do it on purpose. I know. Your fever must have been so high that you were completely groggy, so you didn't know what happened and things turned out this way. I won't take it to heart. Quote. The expression on Gu Jingze's face sank. His gaze rested on Lin Che's face. Lin Che said, we're all adults anyway. If things like this happen, they simply happen. We must think about it rationally. Thus, you don't have to worry, I don't really mind. Your illness is more important right now. Recover first and we'll talk about it again. Gu Jingze was staring at Lin Che's face forcefully. Immediately, it made her feel extremely perplexed. Why, is there something on my face? No, I'm just trying to figure out how exactly your brain is structured. Why was her way of thinking always so strange when she totally looked like a normal human being? Lin Che touched her head. What, could it be that I didn't say it compassionately enough? Look at how thoughtful I am of you. You're not touched and you instead even dare to criticize me. Gu Jingze just looked at Lin Che. What exactly was this? Was she being understanding or did she simply not care? Was she so unwilling to get involved in some complicated relationship with him? Alright, you don't have to say anything. I understand, Lin Che. Right now, Lin Che just wanted to escape. She really did not dare to look at his eyes and did not know the best way to deal with him. Oh, I'll go and get some water for you. She walked out in a hurry. Gu Jingze sat on the bed and looked at the closed door. Immediately, his expression became slightly more solemn. In no time, Lin Che returned. She handed the water to him before saying, "All right, drink more water. You sweat a lot because of your fever." Gu Jingze shot a glance at her. "I didn't sweat a lot because of my fever. I sweat even more from doing other things." Quote ellipsis. Instantly, Lin Che understood what he was talking about. To be honest, last night he did indeed sweat a fair amount. Gu Jingze, what nonsense are you spouting? Lin Che yelled. Gu Jingze looked at her and held up the water. He drank a large mouthful before saying, "You said it yourself. We're already adults. Why do adults still have to beat around the bush when it comes to topics like these?" Lin Che momentarily did not know how to retort. She looked at Gu Jingze and yelled, "I'm just afraid that it would hurt your pride. I wonder who faints immediately after. In the future, if your stamina isn't good enough, then just do as much as your strength permits." How dare she actually say that his stamina was not good enough? Gu Jingze narrowed his deep eyes. Fine, I won't take you seriously since I'm not feeling well now. You'd best remember what you said today. When the time comes, I'll definitely put in my real efforts and let you know exactly whether or not my stamina is good enough. Lin Che's face turned red immediately. Who wants you to put in your real efforts? Humph. As he looked at Lin Che turn her body with a red face, Gu Jingze looked down at his own body. Who said that he only constantly desired her because he could not obtain her? Now that he already had a taste of her, why did his body still so easily become impulsive because of her? In no time, Chen Yucheng came again to replace Gu Jingze's intravenous drip. It was only after Gu Jingze saw Lin Che leave that he said to Chen Yucheng, "When will I completely recover?" Chen Yucheng smiled and raised his eyebrows as he looked at Gu Jingze. "Why do you want to recover completely? I think that it's pretty good for President Gu to always be like this. You can even take the chance to enjoy Madame Gu's special care for a little longer." Gu Jingze's face turned black immediately. "Chen Yucheng, so you didn't come on purpose yesterday?" Chen Yucheng chuckled. "I just wanted to create an opportunity for the two of you. Your fever is actually nothing. Madame Gu totally did the right thing. She wiped your body, wiped it, and very easily misfired while polishing your gun." Quote ellipsis. Gu Jingze said, "Chen Yucheng, I think that you've really had enough of this job. Hey, President Gu, you can't deny that I should take some credit for what happened yesterday. You can't burn the bridge after crossing it and chase me away after getting what you want." Gu Jingze said, "Tell me. Yesterday, she helped me wipe down my body." Gu Jingze still remembered what happened at the beginning, but as for what happened later, he had really fainted. Chen Yucheng said, "Yes. Madame Gu is really too good to you. I reckon that she looked after you for the whole night. When I came, there were ice compresses and water at the side. She continuously had a towel in her hand to wipe you down. It definitely had an effect on making your fever subside. It wasn't a huge effect, but the more important thing is that you definitely felt much more comfortable. Otherwise, having a fever actually feels terrible." Gu Jingze looked outside. In an instant, his gaze deepened much more and only some light flashed across his eyes faintly. Chapter 159. Quick, go and rest. Lin Che walked back in very soon after. Seeing that Chen Yucheng had already disappeared, she asked with confusion, "Did Dr. Chen leave?" However, she saw that Gu Jingze was currently observing her. His gaze was deep and serene as if there was something special about her body. It made Lin Che feel nervous. Why, did I do something wrong again? Gu Jingze looked at what she was holding in her hands and said, "That's enough. We have so many maids at home. Why do you keep doing these things for no reason?" Lin Che touched her head. "I didn't have a lot to do anyway. I just watched Dr. Chen run around and I couldn't help him either. I could only do these errands." Gu Jingze frowned. "That's enough. Put it down. You don't have to do anything." "It's fine. I want to do them," she said. "All right. I told you to put it down." Gu Jingze pulled the tray that she was holding and looked up at her with his brow deeply furrowed. Lin Che paused and saw that Gu Jingze was frowning. He snatched the tray away from her and placed it at the side. Thereafter, he pulled on her arm. "Come onto the bed." Lin Che sat on the bed and Gu Jingze pressed her to the bed to make her lie down. What are you doing? In broad daylight, quote. Come and sleep. But. Sleep with me. No way, quote. Not listening to her protests, Gu Jingze wrapped his arm directly around her body and completely pressed her down. Thereafter, he pressed down her arms as well. Lin Che still wanted to move. His face was pulled tight and bore an expression of warning as he looked at her and restricted her from moving. Lin Che could only freeze there. I don't want to sleep, your illness. Quote. Just sleep when I ask you to sleep. Gu Jingze pressed her tightly onto the bed. Seeing that Lin Che's face was full of reluctance, he lowered his head slightly and asked her meaningfully, why? But I'm not tired, why must I sleep? In that case, should I find a way to make you tired? As he said this, Gu Jingze was about to crawl onto her body. Lin Che quickly stopped him. I was in the wrong. I was in the wrong. No need, no need. I'll sleep. Won't it be okay as long as I just sleep? Lin Che hurriedly pulled the blanket up and covered herself properly with it. Only then did Gu Jingze look at her silently before lying back down again. In all honesty, Lin Che was actually very tired. She was just worried that there would be no one to watch over his illness, so she was filled with adrenaline and did not feel like sleeping. Right now, her head was lying on the pillow. Fatigue from the day before immediately rushed to her brain. She soon fell asleep as she lay there. Gu Jingze looked at her and shook his head. She had said that she was not tired, but still she quickly fell into a deep sleep. When Lin Che woke up, Gu Jingze was already gone. She hurriedly crawled up and ran out. After searching everywhere, she still did not see Gu Jingze. However, she bumped into Chen Yucheng at the entrance. Seeing that Chen Yucheng was still here, she was slightly relieved as well. She quickly pulled him and asked, "Where's Gu Jingze? Is his illness better?" Chen Yucheng said, "He's much better. He no longer has a high fever, but his body is still very weak." "But why is he missing?" "He's a person who pushes himself very hard. He started to go to work the moment he got slightly better." "Ah, that won't do." Lin Che quickly went to the study room to look for Gu Jingze. With one look, she saw Gu Jingze currently in the study room perusing documents and working on something. Lin Che quickly said, "Hey, you haven't recovered yet, but you are working again. What if you collapse from your illness again?" Gu Jingze raised his head. "I'm already fine. I still have some work matters to deal with. Wait for me at the side first. We'll go eat in a while." "No way. How can you work now?" Lin Che walked to him and said, "You need to rest for a few days in order to recover from pneumonia. If you tire yourself out too much, you'll get another fever. I know my body. Once I've endured it, there'll be no problems." Gu Jingze said, "Be good. Go to the side and read a book, all right." He stretched out his hand and tapped her forehead with his finger. Although his voice was hoarse from illness, it sounded even more moving. This man was so sexy even when he was trying to dismiss someone. However, Lin Che still adhered to her principles. "No way. You didn't see how severe your illness was before. But I definitely saw it. Of course, you can't be like this." Gu Jingze raised his head and looked at Lin Che. Her hands were on her hips as she stood here and glared at him unflinchingly. The corners of his lips turned up slightly. "Why, are you worried about me?" Quote ellipsis. Lin Che was at a loss for words. She said, Of course I'm worried about you. At the very least, you're my husband. I still don't want to be a widow yet." Upon hearing this, Gu Jingze's eyes flashed. Before that incident happened, talking about becoming a widow would probably have seemed more like a joke. However, it was a totally different feeling when she talked about it now. He stood up abruptly and immediately leaned in close to Lin Che. Lin Che froze out of shock. Then, she felt his body tilt towards her. His gaze had a strong sense of ambiguity. He smoothed her hair and wove his fingers through a lock of hair. He said gently, "Don't worry, I won't make you a widow." Clearly, these were very ordinary words. But why did Lin Che just feel her face blush and her heart skip a beat? Gu Jingze paused and said, "All right then. I'll stop working. I'll take you to eat something first." Lin Che froze and looked at Gu Jingze. He changed his mind so quickly. Gu Jingze seemed to be in a good mood and in no time, he began to walk out. Chen Yucheng saw the two of them come out together and asked Gu Jingze, President Gu, what are you going to do now? Gu Jingze said, it's nothing medically related. Dr. Chen doesn't need to ask. As he said this, he went inside to change his clothes first. In response, Lin Che could only tell Chen Yucheng, we're going out to eat. Chen Yucheng paused and looked at Lin Che. He said, you're the first person ever who has been able to pull him away from his work. Lin Che looked at Chen Yucheng, really? No way, I don't think he really loves to work either. Chen Yucheng shook his head, PFF'd, you don't understand how other people see Gu Jingze. Trust me, I've known him for more than 10 years. Quote. Gu Jingze came out. Upon seeing Lin Che still here chatting with Chen Yucheng, he came up and pulled her away as he said, let's go. I still haven't changed my clothes. You don't have to change. Anyway, it's for me to see too. I don't dislike what you're wearing. Quote. Just like that, he pulled Lin Che out directly. Behind them, Chen Yucheng shook his head and said, seriously, relax. What's there to be afraid of? I didn't want to disclose any of your secrets anyway. Gu Jingze brought Lin Che and simply left the Gu residence like that. As for Chen Yucheng, he had stayed here for a few days because of Gu Jingze's illness. Seeing that Gu Jingze seemed to simply ignore him and no longer needed him at all, he took the initiative, packed up, and prepared to leave. However, just when he was about to take his things and leave, he heard a phone begin to ring from inside the room. He checked his cell phone and saw that it was not ringing. He turned his head and saw a cell phone currently vibrating on the couch. It seemed to be Lin Che's cell phone. Initially, he did not care. However, he noticed the name on the screen, Shen Yoren. Chapter 160. I'm looking for Lin Che, alright. Chen Yucheng raised his eyebrows immediately. He walked over, picked up the cell phone, and quickly answered the call. Before he even spoke, he heard Shen Yoren's voice. Lin Che, what am I going to do? I called that jerk Zhou Minan and now, his family put me in the police station. If I call my father, I'm dead meat. What should I do? Quote. This woman could seriously stir up a lot of trouble. My apologies. Your good friend is busy on a date. I'm afraid that she can't meddle in your business, Chen Yucheng said into the phone. On the other end, her voice paused. Then, Shen Yoren immediately changed her earlier tone of worry and fear. She instantly roared, Chen Yucheng, why is Lin Che's phone with you? Why, are you very disappointed knowing that it's me? Hitting someone is illegal anyway. You should just stay in the police station and be properly taught a lesson. I didn't ask for your help either. What are you so anxious for? You're right, I was just saying it anyway. I'm fine here too. As he heard her stubborn voice, Chen Yucheng scoffed. Then why did you call? Tell Lin Che for me. In these next few days, I'll be resting in the police station and won't be able to answer calls. Ask her to help me lie to my father and say that I'm together with her. That will do. When she finished speaking, Shen Yoren hung up the phone directly. Chen Yucheng shook his head as he looked at the phone. Then, he tossed it aside. At the police station, the police officers instructed Shen Yoren to go in first. Shen Yoren held the phone gloomily and cursed. This damn Chen Yucheng, he's a total jerk. Why did he take someone else's phone for no reason? He's really shameless. That's enough. We let you contact someone but you couldn't get into contact with them. Go back, the police officer said while hastening her. Shen Yoren wanted to cry. She lifted her head up. Sir, I really did it in self-defense. Even so, that was unjustifiable self-defense. You can explain yourself again when the medical results are released. The police officer did not have the heart to do anything to a girl either. He pushed Shen Yoren in and said, you should think about who you can contact to help you bring a lawyer over instead. Shen Yoren thought angrily, how could she know any lawyers? Right now, her only hope had been dashed by that damned Chen Yucheng as well. However, the door still opened after some time. A lawyer walked in and the police officer said from behind him, Shen Yoren, a lawyer came to bail you out. Shen Yoren quickly raised her head, really? The lawyer looked at Shen Yoren. Follow me out. Shen Yoren was pleasantly surprised. She quickly asked the lawyer, "Did Lin Che ask you to come?" Is it? The lawyer looked at Shen Yoren in confusion. No, it was this man. Shen Yoren followed him out the door. She raised her head to look at the person coming in. Who else could it be but Chen Yucheng? Shen Yoren's smiling face immediately collapsed. She glared at Chen Yucheng before her and said gloomily, "Why are you here?" "Why, you don't want to see me here?" He said to the lawyer. "Forget it, then. I saw wrong. I don't know this person. We're not bailing her out." Hey, what are you doing?" She quickly pulled the lawyer over to her and raised her head while she glared at Chen Yucheng fiercely. The police had told her that the other side was demanding two things from her. The first was compensation and the second was an apology. Although Shen Yoren was reluctant, she still had no choice but to first go and apologize. Then, Chen Yucheng drove her to the hospital. That Zhou Minan was still lying on the hospital bed groaning and moaning. When he saw Shen Yoren, he quickly tried to sit up. "Yoren, hear me out. Towards you, I really didn't." Quote. The madam beside him was probably Zhou Minan's mother. When she saw Shen Yoren walk in, she hastily held back her agitated son. "Hey, you little hussy. How dare you come here? Don't you see how you've hurt our Minan?" Zhou Minan quickly stopped his mother. "Mother, Yoren and I just had a misunderstanding." "What misunderstanding? She nearly killed you and cut our bloodline. You're our third generation, if you can't have children." She looked at Shen Yoren angrily. "I don't care. Compensate. Cut his bloodline." Chen Yucheng took a look from behind them. The man lying on the bed had red lips, white teeth and looked to be fairly respectable. He then cast a glance at the man's body and let out a dry cough. Shen Yoren said, "Why don't you ask your son what exactly he was trying to do?" "I was just acting in self-defense." "What self-defense? If not for the fact that you were wearing a mini skirt and seducing people, would our Minan even want to touch you? To me, it looks like you yourself wanted it too. That's why you dressed so skimpily. Our Minan is such an honest person. When he saw you like this, he was also led astray by you. That's why he wanted to do something to you." Shen Yoren really was insufferably angry. As she looked at this woman, she did not even want to apologize. Right now, she was only thinking about why she did not really kick him until he could not have children when this woman was so arrogant. Then, Chen Yucheng walked up and held Shen Yoren back. "Ladies, the law doesn't seem to dictate that you can casually harass and assault a woman because of what she's wearing. Even if Shen Yoren was naked on the streets, if someone carried out an act of indecency against her without her consent, that would simply be illegal." Shen Yoren, are you sure that he wanted to do something indecent to you?" Shen Yoren quickly nodded her head. "Of course. He just threw himself at me and kissed me." From behind them, Zhou Minan only noticed him now. Seeing that he had pulled Shen Yoren behind him, Zhou Minan said, "Who are you? What's your relationship with Yoren?" Chen Yucheng said, Quote. "He's my man." "Why, is that not allowed?" From behind him, Shen Yoren just interrupted. Quote ellipsis. Chen Yucheng face darkened immediately. Zhou Minan yelled in disbelief, "Of course I don't believe it." He looked at this Chen Yucheng. He was tall and handsome. The clothes on his body, the watch on his wrist, and the leather shoes on his feet. They were all out of the ordinary. A man like this could take a fancy to Shen Yoren. "Don't you dare lie to me." Shen Yoren said, "How am I lying to you? He's definitely my man. Whatever I wear is always for him to see and not for you to see. So stop flattering yourself. Do you still think I'm trying to seduce you? Do I still need to seduce you when you're like this?" Quote ellipsis. Chen Yucheng lowered his head to look at Shen Yoren. Her arm had already naturally come up to pull on his arm stubbornly. Chen Yucheng thought that this woman. Chen Yucheng raised his head. "So if that's the case, why do we have to apologize? If you actually did that to Shen Yoren, we'll see you in court. We'll sue you for indecent conduct." "What? Does justice still exist? After hitting us, she still wants to sue us." Quote. As Chen Yucheng said this, he dragged Shen Yoren along with him and simply walked out. Shen Yoren momentarily looked at them with an expression as if they had swallowed a fly. Of course, she felt immensely pleased. When they left, she was still repeatedly saying, "Great, it feels too great. Ia that serves the